When the Sheriff Came in My Front Door by Homer Croy. The biggest moment of my life occurred one day in 1933, when the sheriff came in the front door and I went out the back. I'd lost my home at 10 Standish Road, Forest Hills, Long Island, where my children were born, and where I and my family had lived for 18 years. I'd never dreamed that this could happen to me. 12 years before, I thought I was sitting on top of the world. I'd sold the motion picture rights to my novel, West of the Water Tower, for a top Hollywood price. I lived abroad with my family for 2 years. We summered in Switzerland and wintered on the French Riviera, just like the idle rich. I spent 6 months in Paris and wrote a novel entitled They Had to See Paris. Will Rogers appeared in the screen version. It was his first talking picture. I had tempting offers to remain in Hollywood and write several of Will Rogers' pictures, but I didn't. I returned to New York, and my troubles began. It slowly dawned on me that I had great dormant abilities that I'd never developed. I began to fancy myself a shrewd businessman. Somebody told me that John Jacob Astor had made millions investing in vacant land in New York. Who was Astor? Just an immigrant peddler with an accent. If he could do it, why couldn't I? I was going to be rich. I began to read the yachting magazines. I had the courage of ignorance. I didn't know any more about buying and selling real estate than an Eskimo knows about oil furnaces. How was I to get the money to launch myself on my spectacular financial career? Oh, that was simple. I mortgaged my home and bought some of the finest building lots in Forest Hills. I was going to hold on to this land until it reached a fabulous price and then sell it and live in luxury. I, who had never sold a piece of real estate as big as a doll's handkerchief. I pitied the plodders who slaved in offices for a mere salary. I told myself that God had not seen fit to touch every man with the divine fire of financial genius. Suddenly, the Great Depression swept down upon me like a Kansas cyclone and shook me as a tornado would shake a hen coop. I had to pour $220 a month into that monster-mouthed piece of good earth. Oh, how fast those months came. In addition, I had to keep up the payments on our now mortgaged house and find enough food. I was worried. I tried to write humor for the magazines. My attempt at humor sounded like the Lamentations of Jeremiah. I was unable to sell anything. The novels I wrote failed. I ran out of money. I had nothing on which I could borrow money except my typewriter and the gold fillings in my teeth. The milk company stopped delivering milk. The gas company turned off the gas. We had to buy one of those little outdoor camp stoves you see advertised. It had a cylinder of gasoline. You pump it up by hand, and it shoots out a flame with a hissing like an angry goose. We ran out of coal. The company sued us. Our only heat was the fireplace. I'd go out at night and pick up boards and leftovers from the new homes that the rich people were building. I, who had started out to be one of those rich people. I was so worried I couldn't sleep. I often got up in the middle of the night and walked for hours to exhaust myself so I could fall asleep. I lost not only the vacant land I had bought, but all my heart's blood that I had poured into it. The bank closed the mortgage on my home and put me and my family out on the street. In some way we managed to get hold of a few dollars and rent a small apartment. We moved in the last day of 1933. I sat down on a packing case and looked around. An old saying of my mother's came back, "Don't cry over spilt milk." But this wasn't milk, this was my heart's blood. After I sat there a while, I said to myself, well, I've hit bottom and I've stood it. There is no place to go now but up. I began to think of the fine things that the mortgage had not taken from me. I still had my health and my friends. I would start again. I would not grieve about the past. I would repeat to myself every day the words I had often heard my mother say about spilt milk. I put into my work the energy that I'd been putting into worrying. Little by little, my situation began to improve. I am almost thankful now that I had to go through all that misery. It gave me strength, fortitude, and confidence. I know now what it means to hit bottom. I know it doesn't kill you. I know we can stand more than we think we can. When little worries and anxieties and uncertainties try to disturb me now, I banish them by reminding myself of the time I sat down in the packing case and said, I've hit bottom and I've stood it. There is no place to go now but up. And what's the principle here? Don't try to saw sawdust. Accept the inevitable. If you can't go lower, you can try going up.